Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamanitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Manupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Koteti Tan Mayataya Taravo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Unimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Vidirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshay Kiptashta Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we continue hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22, the beautiful pastime of Krishna stealing the garments of the unmarried gopis, those beautiful Vraja-devis who have come to the Jamuna River in order to do a very beautiful vow of Vrat and order to gain Sri Krishna as their husband. Okay. So let's see, where are we here? Close this, close that. Okay. So now we'll just review the last couple of verses we did because this is a continuum. The gopis and Krishna have been arguing. Krishna wants them to come out. They don't have any clothes on. They're very shy. But he's insisting. They have all kinds of arguments back and forth. They use many different principles of diplomatic persuasion, summa and beta, right? Pacification, flattery, threats, right? But Krishna's unbudging, and everything they argue, he turns back on them, right? So the gopis said, "Oh, dear Krishna, don't be unfair. We know that you are the respectable son of Nanda and that you are honored by everyone in Braj. You are also very dear to us. Please give us back our clothes. We are shivering in the cold water. O Shamasundar, we are your maidservants and must do whatever you say, but give us back our clothing. You know what the religious principles are, and if you don't give us our clothes, we'll have to tell the king." So they're thinking that they're going to attract his compassionate, understanding side, right? You're honored by everyone. You're known for such good qualities. Please behave according to those qualities. Give us our clothes. We're shivering. Have compassion. We're your maidservants. We're your dependents. We'll do whatever you say, but please give us back our clothing. And then he says, well, if you really are my maidservants, you'll do what I say. Why are you questioning my order? And then they say, you know the religious principles. And then if you don't give us our clothes, we'll tell the king. Yeah, so now they're threatening. And then the next verse was, if you girls are actually my maidservants, and if you will really do what I say, then come here with your innocent smiles and let each girl pick out her clothes. Because the face is the most beautiful part of the body, right? And the smile illuminates the face and makes it so, so beautiful. Krishna wants to see their beautiful smiles of love. Innocent smiles, because they're completely pure, completely chaste, only to him. And he's indicating by that, if you're out of the water, but you're doing what I say, you're still innocent. There's no shame here. There's no guilt. There's no penalty to pay. If you don't do what I say, I won't give them back to you. And if the king becomes angry, then what can he do? So then, the last verse we read, shivering from the painful cold, all the young girls rose up out of the water, covering their pubic hair with their hands. Right? So they're very embarrassed. They're going to do it, but they're still appropriately trying to cover themselves with their hair, with their hands. Now, the next verse is Bhagavan Ata Viksha Shuddha Bhava Prasadita Skande Nidhayava Sanksi Prita Provachasasmitam. When the Supreme Lord saw how the gopis were struck with embarrassment, he was satisfied by their pure, loving affection. Putting their clothes on his shoulder, the Lord smiled and spoke to them with affection. Yeah, this is very important. Listen to what Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says. So, Krishna became very satisfied, prasadita, to see the pure, unalloyed love, Shuddhabhav of the gopis, who on his order had given up all shyness, which was worse than death for those respectable girls. They were still embarrassed, but they gave up that obstacle, and they came out of the water. And Krishna, oh my, this is like such a level of surrender. They're willing to go this far just to please me and make me happy. It's not that they were doing this because, they wanted to get their clothes back. Of course they wanted their clothing, but everything that the gopis do, every thought, every action, is all calculated to please Krishna. Right? Even in arguing, even in man, showing jealousy or anger or contrary feelings, all of that is to enhance the pleasure of Krishna, because he likes to argue. He loves these arguments with these clever girls, right? So they'd given up their shyness, which was worse than death for those respectable girls. Krishna put the gopis' clothing on his shoulder out of greed to smell the fragrance of their bodies that lingered on their clothes. By doing this, Krishna showed his love for the gopis. So before he came to them and touched them personally, he's touching them in this way. The Vedic culture and the exchanges of prema are so beautifully subtle, right? So many messages. Every action, every glance projects a message, right? And here he's saying, oh, I'm so greedy for your touch. I am touching your clothing. And by that, I'm smelling your fragrance, which allows it, and by that I'm actually touching you, and I'm tasting your love, and I'm so happy. Krishna thought, out of love for me, these gopis have done something which is very difficult for any woman. But there remains something even more difficult. I wonder if they can do it. Now let me test the power of their love. Krishna then smiled affectionately and with great boldness advised the gopis, O gopis, you have said that you are my servants and that you will follow my words. Now I am going to test you. If you can come out of the water and stand before me, I will give you your clothing along with my body, mind, and soul. This is very important. If you surrender to me, if you can pass this last test, then I'll give you not only my clothes, but I'll give you my very self. I will surrender to you my body, my mind, and my soul. Right? And in the Gopal Champu, in the dialogue, Krishna says, can you do this? I'm asking you to do this. I want to become submissive to you. In other words, Krishna's relationship with all of his devotees is reciprocal. Ye yatam mam prapadyante, right? As you surrender, I reciprocate. So in the realm of sadhan, he gives us and helps us develop according to the degree that we're surrendering and engaging in service. On this level of prem, he's reciprocating according to their identification, their sthai bhav, the kind of rasa they have for him. And the sthai bhav of Madhurya Ras is the topmost. You read the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy in chapter 8 of Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Ramananda Roy goes through all the different stages of devotion, from Varnashram Dharma, Sakam Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, right? Gyan free from any kind of mental speculation, but gyan based on hearing from great devotees only. Then entering into general stages of bhav and prem, and then from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti, and then Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Mahaprabhu's becoming happier and happier at each stage, hearing about these exalted devotees and their qualities. And he wants to hear one more thing, and he hears about Shringar Ras, Madhurya, and then about the topmost complete love of Srimati Radhika. Right? And then even within that, the most exalted moods of Prem Vaichitya. Right? So he's bringing them along now. This is what they have prayed for. This is what they've taken birth for, to be completely intimate and one with Krishna. Whatever Krishna desires, I want. I have no separate interest, right? Nothing. Anyabhilashita shunya, free from any separate interest, right? Jnana karmadi yanavritam, uncovered by reward-seeking activity, philosophical speculation and personal conceptions, attachments to the benefits of yoga, like mystic cities, etc., practices of astrology, and anything that gives accomplishment in this world, which covers or detracts from bhakti, and then anukulyena krishnanushilanam, right? Activities performed unceasingly, like pure oil streaming from a jar, with a completely favorable mood, a mood completely filled with love, everything I'm doing for the benefit of Krishna, right? Only that. And they're on that topmost level, and Krishna's saying, now if you can pass this next test, I'll give you your clothing. But really that's incidental. I want to give you my body, my mind, and my soul. Whew. So, yuyam vivashta yad apodita vrata vyagahataitat turudeva helanam badvanjalim murdhyanu apanutate mangshahu kridvadamodo vasadam pragrijatam. Lord Krishna said, you girls bathe naked while executing your vow, and that is certainly an offense to the demigods. To counteract your sin, you should offer obeisance while placing your joined palms above your heads. Then you should take back your lower garments. So why is he bringing in the demigods here, I mean, they're beyond all that, right? They have no concern about demigods. They're not praying to demigods. But remember, this is Naravat Leela. This is what makes it so sweet. They prayed to the goddess Katyayani and prayed for her to fulfill their desire. They're in the conception that they're within that community, like a Varnashram community. Like Nanamraj explaining to Krishna why they performed Indra Puja at Govardhan, every year. And that was the beginning of the Govardhan Anukut Leela. Right? But they have that conception. We're cowherd persons. And so we have a relationship with the demigods. Right? They supply the necessities. They oversee the order of our world. So naturally we offer them different things. And so Krishna's saying, you did this vow for an entire month, but by bathing naked, you have ruined everything. You've offended the demigods. And so Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur is going to explain how they are now completely distressed, thinking, oh, after all that, all of our efforts, we've committed an offense and we won't get the result of this vrat. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur speaks Krishna's words. He says, oh, you have made a great offense. By bathing in the water, you have definitely offended Varuna or Narayan, Deva Narayan, right? Gopis. This is a local custom. Therefore, being very young girls, we have made no offense. It is a local custom, right? Krishna. For those performing vows, bathing naked is certainly an offense to the Lord. So, in other words, perhaps normally bathing naked would be okay for young girls in the river, village custom, but this is in connection with a very sacred vow that you made. Considering that the fruits of their Katyayani Vrat had become nullified, the gopis became afraid and said, oh, we have made such an offense, and now we will not get any results. Since we have failed and have become completely mortified, we should give up our lives, right? Because if they can't achieve Krishna as their beloved, what's the purpose of life, right? That's what they're thinking. Seeing that the gopis had performed such severe austerities that their bodies were pale, fatigued, and shivering, Krishna thought, oh, I should be compassionate and prescribe some atonement so they do not give up their lives. He's actually putting that threat, so now they have no alternative, right? They have to do what he says now. So he's creating a pretext, right, and actually giving them an excuse to overcome that last obstacle of shyness. They have the love, but they're acting in that so-called worldly way, so he's creating a platform for them to rationalize their complete surrender, right? They were already completely surrendered, but this obstacle of embarrassment. So therefore Krishna said, oh, slender-waisted gopis, don't be afraid. The Shastras proclaim that all women are servants of Narayan. Gargamuni has also said that I am similar to Narayan in qualities. Therefore, I am now your Narayan. He is their Narayan. The husband is worshipable by the wife, right? Like Guru, and Guru's like Narayan, Sakshat Hari Tve, Nasamasta Shastra. And so, when Gargamuni had given that statement on the name-giving ceremony and all, he spoke it in such a way that he was saying that Krishna is God and he's incarnated many different times in many different yugas with different colors. But he also said it in such a way that the inhabitants of Vrindavan interpreted it like he is like Narayan. He may be empowered by Narayan. He will do great acts, but by the mercy, by the power of Narayan, right? They never thought he was Narayan directly. Remember when the cowherd boys, after the Govardhan Leela, approached Nanda Maharaj and said, oh, we think, your son is not one of us. His whole life we've seen him do amazing things. And previously thought, well, maybe he's empowered in some way, special. But now, after seeing him lift this Govardhan hill, we think he may be Narayan himself, right? Or at least some incredibly powerful demigod. We think you should not treat him like your boy. And then Nanda Maharaj laughs at them, of course, and says, oh, you cowherd men. It said that cowherd men don't lose their milk teeth till after 80. In other words, they take a long time to grow up and mature. You're saying this is obviously proof of that. Krishna, Narayan, he's always hungry. He's crying for chapatis, for butter. If he doesn't get it, he steals. When we confront him, he lies. Are these the activities of Narayan? God is never hungry. He never cries. He doesn't have to steal. These activities alone prove he's not Narayan. And then Yogamaya engulfs them all again, and they say, oh, of course you're right, of course. It was a momentary thought. So, just to illustrate to us the unflinching conception of the Brajadevi. So Krishna is speaking them in such a way to reinforce that. I'm like Narayan. I'm not Narayan, but Gargamuni has said that, I may be empowered by Narayan. I'm the special favor of Narayan. So, I am your Narayan. To nullify your offense to Narayan, you should face me and offer respects to me. Then, because Narayan, he does his work through me. You've seen that so many times, right? Then you can take back your undergarments. It says only your undergarments. Since I am man and I have no business with the undergarments of women, I'm going to keep your upper garments and use them myself as shawls. Undergarments, means the lower garments, right? Dress and all that. But the upper garments, like blouse and like that thing, what's the technical term? They put over them, right? Like a shawl. When the gopis simply lowered their heads as obeisance, because now, okay, we'll offer obeisance to you. We're praying to you. They're still covered. Their hair, their hands, they're bent over. All right, we'll offer obeisance to you. And they did it by bowing their heads. Krishna said, oh no, offering respects with just the head is inferior. Right, if you see your spiritual master in the morning and he comes before you and you just nod your head, is that sufficient? No. In ordinary dealings with ordinary people, we may show respect to one another by nodding our head, but for Guru or God, no, you can't just nod your head. Then Krishna saw them using one hand. So they went like this, still covering them with one hand up, right? And he objected again. This is also inferior. Thus, Krishna made the gopis hold both hands together in prayer. When Krishna saw them folding their hands, but keeping them below their waist to cover their private parts, they're still struggling. So they fold their hands, two hands, but still covering. Offer obeisance with your palms joined above your heads. Like when we do Dandavat Pranams, we're stretched out, arms above, right? Now he's telling them to do that, and then they're completely exposed, completely vulnerable, right? No barrier anyway. He can see them completely. Thus, the young girls of Vrindavan, considering what Lord Achyuta had told them, accepted that they had suffered a fall down from their vow by bathing naked in the river. But they still desired to successfully complete their vow, and since Lord Krishna is himself the ultimate result of all pious activities, they offer their obeisance to him to cleanse away all their sins. So, for ordinary readers, you understand it like that Krishna is God himself. He is the ultimate object of all worship, right, of all sacrifice, and therefore this was appropriate. And in the other way of understanding, that they're worshiping him as the representative of Narayan, right? So they offered obeisance. They had no choice. He had convinced them in every way. And they wanted to cleanse away the so-called sin, right? So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, the gopis thought that the results of their vrat should not be lost, even if they had to sacrifice their modesty. Therefore, they decided to simply surrender unto Krishna. They had no choice. Okay, here we go. We're also sometimes put into situations like that, right? By the material nature, under the direction of the Lord, we're so resistant to surrender. We're so confident in taking shelter of our material talents, our material possessions, our material relationships, material conception of our relationships, that we always take shelter of these things first whenever any difficulty comes. So sometimes Krishna, if he especially favors us, right? Remember that verse Srila Prabhupada always quoted that came to him after he'd taken initiation, Krishna telling Yudhishthira, if I especially favor someone, I take away everything. And then all that were near and dear to him, they all reject him, and he has no other shelter but me at that time. So now the gopis have tried every means. They had no other alternative. They had to surrender completely to Krishna. This is explained in this verse. And sometimes we ourselves also are put into situations. And when we are, this is really important for us. And I'm almost hesitant to say this, because every time I speak on this subject matter like this, something heavy happens to me and I have to surrender. I've had so many instances of this. Some illness, some accident, some breaking down of the vehicle in the middle of nowhere. I'm sitting here talking, as if I had realization and everything. Yes, we have to be surrendered. And then it happens. And then, I'm lying on my back in the mud and the rain, or on the side of the road in the middle of the night somewhere, locked out of my vehicle in a rainstorm. So many things have happened. And I just have to look up to the sky, look into my heart, and say, oh, Krishna, you're just showing me over and over. You're the only refuge. And just my saying that is not going to relieve me of this condition, but perhaps it will allow me to tolerate it. Because that's what Lord Brahma says. He says, Tat tenu kampam susamikshamano, right? That the general translation of that is, if somehow in any circumstance one can tolerate difficulties in their life, seeing them as the result of their past karma, right, what's due to them, then Krishna becomes pleased with that person. Right? This is in that 14th chapter, after he had stolen the cowherd boys and calves, and Krishna defeated him. And he's making humble prayers. But Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj said that for the devotee, they should see that these things are coming not by past karma, because once you begin chanting Hare Krishna nicely, even Namabhas, karma is destroyed. But Krishna will give us a semblance of karma in order that we can continue to strive for purification, right? And so these difficulties that we experience are coming from that, because we have to destroy the mentality that caused us to perform bad actions in the first place, which would result in karma. The mentality exists in the form of these desires, right? These attachments. And those are the most difficult things to destroy. These things that are waiting to sprout. So the gopis decided that their vow had become useless. Desiring to attain the results of their vrat, they offered respects to Krishna, who bestows the results of all actions. What to speak of this vrat? Right? Because they thought the results of their vrat should not be lost, even if they had to sacrifice their modesty. Right? Therefore, they simply surrendered to Krishna. So sometimes that's the way it goes with us. We want to surrender. We want to wake up in the morning enthusiastic and eager from that moment. We'd like to not even forget Krishna while we're dreaming and sleeping, right? But we're still somewhat anishtata, right? Unsteady. So this is a very good lesson, that even at the highest stages of bhakti, we will be put into difficulty. And in the 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, when the pastime of Dharma the bull being beaten by Kali, Srila Prabhupada explains that great devotees are also put into difficulty. And this, in its own way, Krishna does it to glorify them, to show how steady and pure their devotion is, right? How humble they are, that even in the face of all of this, they don't blame anyone. They just accept whatever comes as the desire of the Lord, and they want to act to fulfill his desire. And he does that to show us, right? These devotees show us that even in the midst of great difficulty, they're undeterred in their seva. And Queen Kunti says, hey, let the difficulties come again and again. Because then we remember you, we take even greater shelter, and then we see you and we become so happy. So the idea is if we're in difficulty and we can really remember and focus on Guru and Krishna, we can feel very connected with them, and the unhappiness that we might ordinarily experience with the material difficulty transforms. Because then, if we're thinking that whatever we're doing is part of the will of Krishna and meant to give happiness to Krishna, part of Krishna's Leela, then let me accept it. And the gopis are, yeah, let me accept this. This is for Krishna. They say if we satisfy Krishna, who is the sum total of all results, then what else remains to be gained? They're thinking that, oh, well, Krishna wants it, so what else do we have to do? You know, our whole life is dedicated to just serving Krishna. He wants this, okay, we're embarrassed, but if we know this is really what he wants, then let us do it. Someone may argue with the gopis saying, you may gain the results, but what about the sin incurred? This verse answers the question by saying that Krishna is the purifier of all sins, of Vadyamrig. Thus there can be no fault for those who obtain the mercy of the Lord. Right? So that's the final instruction of Bhagavad Gita as well, right? Any doubt that Arjuna may have had that his actions were inappropriate, after all his instruction, Krishna says one last time, Sarva dharmam parityagya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Right? Just surrender unto me. Right? Give up all mundane considerations of right and wrong. You know, ordinary dharma. Right? My will is the highest dharma. Dharmam hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam, right? Yamaduda's instruction from Yamaraj. And then I'll protect you from all the other reactions. Right? Sarva papebhyo, mokshashami mashucha, all of that I take, I purify. So, tastata vanata drishtva bhagavan devaki sutta va sanksi tabhya prayachat karunastena toshita. Seeing them bow down like that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, gave them back their garments, feeling compassionate towards them and satisfied by their act. Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, Krishna then gave back all their garments, rather than just their undergarments, because he was pleased that they had done as he wished. Now, the next verses are going to be Shukadeva Goswami's explaining, and Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur reinforcing that, the glorification of the gopis in this act, right? Despite all that they had endured and all that seemingly took place there, he's going to explain that this is the most glorious and highest expression of prema. This is going to give them entrance to fulfill their greatest desire, which will ultimately result in the topmost pastime of Rasa Leela. But we will see that. And so we will stop here and continue more tomorrow. So let's see. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, All glories to our exalted Guru Parampara, assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.